Welcome to the Possibility Action Network podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Middleton, aka Possibility Man. We're committed to bringing you guests who strive to better people's lives and serve as a force for good in the world. Our guest today is Maty Mariko. She is a burnout recovery coach, a mindset coach, and a purpose mentor. She's certified in clinical hypnotherapy and is a NLP practitioner. She offers one-on-one consultation with clients and invites them to examine the subconscious and conscious mind to create habits that are aligned with the goals and objectives they have for their lives. Maty Mariko, welcome to the show today.
Thank you very much, Stefan. It's such a pleasure to be with you. I'm very excited.
Aha. Look, I'm looking forward to the magic we'll create together. But first, a reminder to our listeners and our viewers, follow, like, and share this podcast wherever you find it. Your support matters and is appreciated. Hey, Maty, one of the things I noticed about you is that you truly are a citizen of the world. When I first reached out to you, you were in Dubai. So tell us a little bit about where you've traveled, where you've been, and perhaps where you are today.
Well, indeed, I travel a lot. It's one of my passion. And right now I'm in Brazil. I was born in France, grew up in France, partially in France and in the UK. So far I traveled to UK, to Spain, Panama, Costa Rica, Brazil. I've been a bit everywhere, including Colombia. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, as I said, you're truly a citizen of the world. You know, you mentioned France. I studied French over 50 years ago.
So how's your
what can
French?
I remember? Qu'est-ce que c'est? J'étudie mon français et maintenant de pratiquer mon français. I'm not sure if you understood any of that, but it's
So
been a long time.
should we switch for the podcasting?
Oh, very good. Hey, look, you know, also one of the things that really impresses me about you is that, you know, you've traveled all over the world. You know, you speak more than one language. You've talked to people from different backgrounds. What would you say to this question? Would you say that people, no matter where they are in the world, are faced with human kinds of challenges and opportunities?
Definitely. I think that we all struggling, and unfortunately we're kind of making it part of our daily routine to be in the struggle. I think that most people do anything they can to be physically fit, but they kind of disregarding their mental fitness. So yeah, that's something that's very general.
Yeah. So what kinds of things in terms of mental fitness, mental hygiene that people from around the world may face from your experience?
What they face the most is, on my level, it would be to accept the kind of life they have created for themselves, instead of thinking that they could reach for more. For example, people will start a career and they would say that they are trapped in that career, that this is it. This was once their choice and it has to stay that way. They just can't see beyond their daily routine. They can't see the different opportunities that they could have if only they were to open their mind to the idea of change.
So from your, do you think change is really possible? I mean, a lot of people, Maty, around the world are talking about change, but I want to put it to you since I have you here. Is change really possible for human being?
Of course it is. And we actually change every day. You're not the same person as you were yesterday. You're certainly not the same person as you were 10 years ago or 20 years ago. We change and evolve every day. That's part of human nature. And
Okay, so
thinking otherwise, it's kind of holding us back.
Okay. Well, I'm going to dig deeper into that, but I want you to look at a little more about what people face today and then examine it in connection with your sense of change being possible. So burnout, for example, is something that you really talk about. Why do you suppose some people, including high-level professionals, experience burnout?
I think people experience burnout because they're disregarding the fire inside them. They're disregarding their passion. They forget about the dream factor. They forget who they were once. So they kind of postponing their own growth. They get trapped into paying the bills, facing their responsibility, and they kind of convincing themselves that this is what it's like to be an adult.
Yeah. So let me make sure that I'm clear about this. Is that you mentioned the fire within. So do you feel that people really come to the planet, to Earth, with some type of passion or purpose that's inherent in them?
Most definitely. I believe that we all have a purpose, a reason to be. And we kind of discover our mission at a very young age, and then we forget. We forget because we go to school and we're taught to be responsible. We're taught to stay in line. We're taught to behave a certain way. We're taught that a dream is just not something you can feed yourself on, and that you have to choose a stable life, stability.
That sounds like it's spiritual to me. It's like you're saying to me that, look, the universe or whatever is out there or in here gives people something that's like a blueprint for their life.
Yeah, I genuinely believe so. But I also believe that blueprint, you created yourself. A lot of people keep saying, I'm searching myself. I'm trying to find myself back, but it's not about searching yourself. You don't find yourself. You create yourself. You create yourself every day by the actions you take.
Yeah. So, but I can imagine, I heard someone say once that it's hard to go through life without getting dirty, So it's like you're going through life, as a young age, you have a teacher say something to you, and then it sticks. So what do you think about that? I mean, is it different? Is it possible? I won't say that possible. I won't use that word. But you think that people tend to just pick up habits that hold them back along the way in this journey we call life?
Yeah, that's what we mostly do in life. In rapid transformational therapy, we call that mental tags. We label ourselves into different things. I'm too ugly. I'm not enough. I'm not lovable. And that's all we do. We trap ourselves into stinking thinking.
Yeah. Yeah, and we don't want to do this, right? But it seems to be, though, easier, and I've talked to a lot of people, it seems easier for a person, for example, to say things like, I made a mistake 20 years ago. Do you think that it's easy for some people to say that? And why do you think that's the case?
I think it's easy for people to say, I made a mistake, and unfortunately, they keep referring to that mistake as something that determines their whole life. You made a mistake. Well, that's fine. Keep on making some. That's how you learn. That's how you grow. Without making mistakes, you can't become the person you aspire to be. Mistakes aren't here to stop you. They're here to teach you a lesson, to teach you a different way, so you can observe your behavior and change that behavior.
Yeah. So there's a healthy way of even seeing that. You're saying is that a person can learn to judge themselves harshly because of a mistake, or a person can learn to see that mistake in a way that pushes them forward.
Exactly. And it all comes down to the conversation we have with ourselves. This inner talk we keep on having, all the things we keep repeating ourselves over and over again. The past is in the past. It no longer exists. It should not affect your current life.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Take
I
the
think most people,
learnings and move on
yeah,
from it. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, yeah, I love that. And I think most people want to do that. I want to harken back to something that in my spiritual tradition, the Christ said, treat your neighbor as yourself. But you know something, Maddie, a lot of people have a story in their heads, that's really critical most of the time. And I'm just trying to figure out, why is that? Why is it so easy for us to attack ourselves? And then because we attack ourselves, we sometimes attack others.
Because we're not taught to do any different. We kind of reproducing what we've seen all our lives. And if you look at your parents' behavior, then most probably that's what they've taught you. That's what you've observed as a child. So you're kind of trapped into repeating the same behavior patterns as they once displayed.
Yeah, I get that, because what I'm feeling here is that a person can watch and observe, a child can watch and observe adults as they mature. They can learn, for example, healthy eating habits, or they can learn poor eating habits. And are you also saying, Maddie, that a person can learn poor mental habits?
Of course. Of course. And that's the thing. Once you were once told as a child can actually get stuck in your subconscious mind without you even realizing it. The subconscious mind is like a giant library where you've got all these information stocks, those feeling stocks, and they become your beliefs. And you base your perception of life, the way you experience life every day, based on those information stored there.
Right. I want to get into change in a moment, but before we look at transformation and change, I want to really spend more time on the kinds of things that people face so that people can get a glimpse in what's possible for them moving forward. So dwelling in the past, is it genetic? Let me ask you that way. Is that a genetic condition, the tendency of a person to dwell?
I do not like the term genetic.
Okay.
It's the same as telling someone, I keep hearing Black people telling me, oh, I want to lose weight, but the doctor says it's genetic. I can't be skinny. That's not true. Oh. Again, that is thinking. It's a belief that you keep associating with yourself, but that's not who you are. It's not about genetic. We need to break that belief, because if you keep on telling yourself this and that is genetic, then you can't move from it. You just can't build the person you aspire to become.
Okay.
So it's not about genetic. It's about the way you approach life.
I see. Would the same apply to something? I live in the States, and this is probably true throughout the world. I mean, depression and anxiety and stress are epidemic. I mean, so is that the same thing? Is it like culturally induced, or is it just something that a person has learned to see life in a certain way?
I think it's both. I believe that it does come down to the way you perceive life. It does come down to the conversation you keep having with yourself. All those words you keep telling yourself, all the associations you keep making on a mental level. But it also comes down to your relationship with people, to the things you keep hearing, to watching the news. A lot of adults watch the news and listen to the news on the radio first thing as they wake up.
Mm.
And they go to bed, and that's the last thing they listen to, the news.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So these amount of people were murdered all across
Yeah.
the world. And that's what you keep on hearing. You literally hypnotizing yourself with negative information. So no
Yeah.
wonder why you're so stressed, anxious, overwhelmed.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a saying, I think, in the news industry, something to the effect, if it doesn't bleed, it doesn't lead.
But imagine how terrible is that? And we keep repeating ourselves all those things, but it's terrible. This is programming. Everything you say to yourself programs your mind. It programs your mind, and then it changes your behavior.
Yeah. Yeah.
And your
So I guess
behavior brings certain events into your life.
Yeah. So, so I'm assuming here that it's possible for a person to learn to think in a certain way that holds them back, just like a person can learn to live in a certain way that pushes them forward. Is that fair to say?
Yes. And I also, it's not because you've learned something that you can't unlearn it. Nothing is definite. Nothing is, life is a movement. You can change once again, but change is a decision away. You have to decide to change.
Yeah.
Because it means changing your relationship with yourself, with others, eventually your environment, your responses. So obviously it's a lot to take on. And not everybody is willing to let go of their past, because most people identify themselves to their past. It's the story you keep telling yourself every day. So it's the story you keep telling the world.
Yeah, we're going to look at how to break that in a moment. But so what about emotional and mental blocks? Is that something that a person can get past? And what I mean by that, by mental block, is that what if a person says, I want to go back to school, but, I had a bad experience 5 years ago. Is that something that a person can get over, you think?
Of course. And that's what I do with my clients. That's why I love working on the subconscious and the conscious mind. You see, we all try to change things and perceive things differently. And when we try to make changes, we often do it on a conscious level. And because we do it on a conscious level, it's really hard to stick.
Yeah.
Because once again, we have to tap onto the subconscious mind for those changes to really operate at a deepest level.
Yeah, I got you. So we've looked at some challenges that humans face. I know that you talk about keys to letting go. Let's look at one challenge, something like dwelling on the past. And tell me, how do you teach people how to let go of that tendency to dwell in the past?
We cannot eradicate the past just like that. What you need to do is to change your interpretation of it. Because most of the time, what affects you negatively is not the events, it's the interpretation you give to this moment of your life. So once you can change the interpretation, then you can change the way you feel about it. You change the thought, you change the feeling, then you change the behavior. And then you open up yourself to new events to experience in your life.
Maty, I can hear someone saying that, well, that could be right because I know you coach a lot of professionals. For a professional person who hasn't had a great deal of adversity, but in my case, I was traumatized when I was 16. What about that person? Can this person learn to see that in a different way, a more positive light?
Yes, you can. And that's why we work on a subconscious level.
Mm.
because that interpretation of your past is stored somewhere in your subconscious mind. And that is what is stopping you.
Mm.
You cannot eradicate the trauma, but you can surely learn to take it differently, to ease the pain, to realize that this is no longer affecting you. It does not have that the power it had in the past, because the past is gone. You're not that person anymore.
Yeah, I could just imagine some people listening or watching would say, and I'm talking with Maty Mariko, who is a recovery coach, who would say, well, Maty, yeah, I still hear you, but what about someone who was, and I hate to throw this out there, but I will, what about someone who was raped at an early age? Can you just say, let go of something as traumatic as that?
No, you can't let go of it, but you can learn to see it differently. You can learn to give it less impact in your current life.
Okay.
If you manage to distance yourself from the person you used to be at that time, because a trauma like this one actually affects the person that you are, it changes you. So you're no longer that person. So if you manage to distance yourself from the person you were at that time, then you can open up yourself to be the person that you are now.
I know there are a lot of people who grew up in households where one parent was an alcoholic and also abusive, in terms of the whipping and the vulgar language and the like, and sometimes people feel, I can't go on, I can't be successful because I've had that life experience. What would you say to someone who have lived that kind of way?
I would say to this person that, first of all, you have a choice. You can let the past define who you are, or you can choose to reprogram yourself. Realize that your parents' choices, this pain, does not define you. You were not the reason of the abuse. You never deserved that abuse. You were raised by a person who was at that point dysfunctional. But none of this has to do with you. Again, distanciation.
Okay, so I don't want to dwell too much on, individual traumas, but are you saying that it doesn't matter what the trauma is, that it's possible for a person to learn to deal with it in a positive way?
Yes, I'm saying that you can learn to navigate your life differently, and it's up to you. The choice is always up to you. And not making a choice is actually making a choice still. But, you have to look at what is really important to you, what really matters.
Okay.
And again, not all of us are willing to let it go, because it means completely changing who you are.
Yeah. In your work, I know you talk a lot about transformation, and that's what you just said. A person can change who they are, a person can change. What is transformation to you, and how does that show up in your work?
In my work, transformation is about unleashing your potential, creating the kind of life you really deserve, realizing that you have the power to control your feelings, your reaction, and that you do that by changing your thoughts, changing the conversation you have with yourself. You mentioned earlier a person who was once abused as a child and had alcoholic parents. But again, change that conversation you have with yourself. You are not trapped in that past. You are no longer that kid who was once helpless and hopeless. You are an adult. Your life is yours to build. So you can indeed transform from what you believed you were once.
You know, I was talking to someone just yesterday. I was traveling and I was in another city and was talking with someone, and she was telling me that she was facing persistent, intrusive thoughts like how bad she was and how she did badly in her life. And so my question to you is that, how can I put this? Are there any exceptions to what you're saying about the ability of a person to change? Is there a condition that's like too tough for a person to overcome from your standpoint?
No, I don't think so. I really don't think so, unless you really have a mental illness, you know. If indeed you are psychotic or a schizophrenic, obviously it will be different. But for someone who do not suffer from mental illness, they can change. That person approached you on the street and she told you those things like she was victim of her own mind. Like she was not in control at all. She's experiencing those thoughts, but those thoughts are coming from her own mind. She's the one having this conversation with her. And most people do not realize that those thoughts are generated by themselves. They feel a victim of their own mind. They feel like, you know, there's someone in their head, you know, guiding them and telling them those things, but it's not true. You're the one in control there. So if you approach someone like you and you go, I'm experiencing consistent, okay, again, consistent, you're not willing to let go of it. It's consistent, even yourself, you're saying it. So you're already creating that attachment to those thoughts. They're yours to keep.
I hear you. But what you're suggesting to me is that most people are more powerful than they may realize in their ability to change their lives for the good. Is that what you?
Everybody is. Everybody is.
So you don't buy this thing about there are exceptions to the rule. You don't buy that at all.
No, I don't. I don't. And, you know, if truly someone in your audience feels that way, then they need to get in touch with me so I can prove them wrong. And they can change their life. Do you know what I mean? Because again, change is a decision away. If you decide to do something, if you set your mind to do something, then you can achieve it.
Yeah.
But it is based on you.
Yeah. You know, Maty, again, I'm going to go back. I said, I don't want to dwell on the challenges people face, but I know that a lot of people are dealing with just a poor opinion of themselves. I mean, let's call it self-esteem. Talk to us about that and talk to us from your experience about how a person can learn to see themselves in a healthier way.
First, to see yourself in a healthier way, you really need to focus on your relationship with yourself. You really need to start putting yourself first. Because most people who experience self-esteem issues, they have the tendency of putting others before their own needs, concentrating on others, taking care of people around them. You have to learn to practice self-care. You've got to learn to say no. And when you say no, it's not about negating anything. It's about putting yourself first. It's about choosing yourself. So that's one of the main things I would say about self-esteem. But we were all born with self-esteem. So no one can say, oh, I have no self-esteem. You do have self-esteem. You just at some point decided to tune it down.
Yeah.
But that can be undone. No, you can't see a baby on earth. You know, you look at that baby and that baby would go, oh no, don't look at me, I'm ugly. Look at you know, I'm a bit chubby. And no, babies feel confident.
Yeah. Yeah.
They know their
That's
worth.
yeah. Yeah, that's for sure. They knew what they want to. uh,
Exactly.
yeah.
And they know they
Okay.
can get it. There's no doubt in their mind.
Mhm.
That's a learned behavior. And
Yeah.
again, what
Wow.
is learned can be unlearned.
Yeah. That's nice. I like that. You know, I was talking to one of my sisters yesterday, and she was telling me about her second child. And she said that that child crawled around for about a year. And one day, and this is relevant to what you're saying, one day this child just stood up and walked. What?
You
Oh,
see, that's it.
yeah. Yeah. It's
That's the kind
amazing.
of confidence we have as kids.
Mm,
And then
yeah.
we forget all about it. Someone will
Yeah.
make a comment and
Mhm,
you will take it at heart, store it in
mm,
your subconscious mind, and that's it. Boom. You
mm,
just literally create that story about you,
mm,
identify with that moment of your life and
mhm,
making it something definite as, you know, this is who I am.
yeah. It's amazing what one powerful insight can do to a human being, right? That could really transform a person. One insight.
Indeed. But
Yeah.
again, one negative thing can always
Mm,
be replaced by something positive.
yeah. Yeah.
That's the thing. We hypnotize ourselves into
Mhm,
negative thinking,
mhm,
into believing that we are losers. But we
mhm.
can actually hypnotize ourselves into believing that we're successful, that we're
Yeah.
amazing, that we have a great potential, that we're
Yeah.
limitless.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm glad you mentioned hypnotizing because I do want to get into some of your tools, but you just got some great tools in your
Oh
wheelhouse.
yeah. Oh
So,
yeah, I
yeah.
really
So
do.
yeah. So tell me about hypnotherapy and how does that show up in your work?
Okay, so that's the thing. With my, well, I'm going to tell you how it all started.
Okay.
I was once a coach, and I realized that my clients were still struggling,
Mm,
with making permanent changes in their lives. So they
mm,
were really working really, really hard at achieving what they wanted. They set their goals and they were working towards the achievement of those goals, but something was always bringing them back, like holding them back. And I thought at some point, come on, this is ridiculous. What's that about?
mm,
But and I realized really, well, looking at the situation, that the problem is that as coaches, we often work on building foundations, no, building a house on foundation that are already there. But
mm,
if those foundation aren't stable enough, if they're not strong enough, the house can't hold.
mm,
So before you work on building your house, you've got to make sure that the foundation are strong enough.
mhm. I see.
And that's
So,
why, that's why, and that's where hypnosis comes really handy. That's why hypnotherapies come really handy.
mhm. No, are there some people who are resistant to hypnotherapy?
Yeah, I know. I know a
I'm
lot of
asking.
people do, but
Uh,
well, I'm actually telling you, yeah, a lot of people, when you say hypnosis, oh my God, no,
mm,
this is woo woo. I don't want to do that.
mm.
But you hypnotizing yourself every day. You're actually under
Okay.
hypnosis every day. It's a
Uh,
very natural trends that we experience several times a
mm,
day. When you watch a movie and you're really into what you're watching, and someone walks inside the room and goes, Stefan, and you just jump, it's
mm,
because you're very focused into what you're doing, what
yeah.
you're watching, what you're experiencing. And same as you, when you're reading a book that fascinates you, you are in that light trance. Hypnosis is just a light trance. It's not what we see on TV, like you're not in control. At the contrary, you're even more in control than ever. You connected to your entire mind, your consciousness and your unconsciousness. And that's fabulous. That's where the magic happens.
That's interesting. So, wow. I can imagine. I know it has happened to me, but I driving down the road and I'm driving and I missed my turn. Oh, I missed my turn to turn around. So in that moment, then I was hypnotized.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So imagine if you're listening to something that's negative at that time, and all the information you all of a sudden storing into your mind. And that's what I do with my clients. I use their own suggestions so that I can help them reprogram, recode their mind to get exactly what they want.
Wow. That sounds great. So hypnotherapy is one of your tools. I'm not sure if tool is the right word to identify it, but I think you see it. But you also talk about rapid transformational therapy. What is that? And how does that show up in your work?
Well, rapid transformational therapy and hypnosis work in correlation. What I do with my clients is really work on one issue at a time. We work on one specific issue at a time so that we can change the interpretation of their past and help them, get to their objectives. Finally create the life they desire. Change the relationship they have with themselves and the inner conversation. So they're no longer held back by their past.
Wow. That's very hopeful. That sounds very hopeful. So what about NLP, neuro-linguistic programming? I know that's something else that you use in your practice.
That's something I use mostly during my coaching sessions. As I was mentioning earlier, it's difficult for people to create a change on a permanent level. So with a rapid transformational therapy, we change things on a subconscious level, which gives us more chances for this long-lasting effect. That said, habits are built day after day. And that's what I do with NLP. I make sure that my clients actually change their ways. And they systematically not only identifying the patterns that are holding them back, but also creating new neural pathways.
Okay. No, I'm seeing this clearer now. You were telling us that there's the conscious mind, there's the subconscious, and what you do then is you can go to the subconscious to create better effects at the conscious level. Or help us understand that, because I may have had that a little mixed up.
Precisely, that's exactly what I do. Exactly. Because indeed, when you're only working on a conscious level, it just makes it more difficult for people to get it. And you know that you're doing this wrong, you just don't know why. With rapid transformational therapy, you understand the reasons behind it. You get to the root cause of the problem. So you can identify what always has been stopping you, holding you back. And you can identify those patterns in your daily routine. So each time it reoccurs, you can say, I'm not going there anymore. I've changed that message already on a subconscious level. This is what I'm doing from now on. And you're changing the path.
Wow. And you're saying that you can actually reprogram and rewire your mind? Is that what you said earlier?
To the letter.
Oh,
Yes,
wow.
yes. Yeah.
Once again, that's very hopeful, that you feel that a person can actually reprogram. Well, tell us more about reprogramming and rewiring. What does that mean to you when you say that?
It means stopping the old programming. You see, and I'm sure you've experienced that 100 times. When you see someone, I don't know, cutting the chicken, and they go, "Oh," and you ask them, "But why are you doing it like that? I do it that way," and they go, "Well, I don't know. I've always done it that way. My mom does it that way, And then you ask their mother, and they go, "Well, I don't know. I've always done it that way because your grandma does it that way." It's just like we keep on repeating the same cycle because we once seen it and we're assuming this is the way, but it isn't. You can choose. You can choose. But at some point, we have to take responsibility before we can make choices. And most people, they just don't take responsibility because it's really hard to do. It's really hard to understand that, the life you're having, being overwhelmed, being burnt out, having all these financial issues, well, you're responsible for them because you keep on making the same choices every day. If something is not working, then change what you're doing. Or otherwise, you will keep on getting the same results over and over and over again.
Wow. What I hear you say, I'm feeling what you're saying is that you're telling me I have the power. You're not telling me that I don't have the power. You say, look, you got the power.
You do. You've got the power. It's inside you. It's inside you, and it's screaming for you to let it out. But all you keep focusing on is negative things, is what is stopping you. It's scarcity. So if you were only to start focusing on what you really want, and you were to tell your subconscious mind what you want instead of focusing on what you fear not getting, your life would change.
Wow.
The more you tell yourself, "I don't want this to happen, I don't want this to happen," the more likely it's going to happen because you keep focusing your mind on it. So that's what you're going to attract. And that's what the law of attraction is about.
How does a person, Maty, reach that subconscious mind? I mean, how do you go past that the way that you're always listening to and get there at the subconscious level? How do you do that?
Well, first of all, you work with a professional. You work with a professional, you do a few sessions, and if you're lucky, and if this person is a rapid transformational therapist, for example, they will then give you a recording that will help you reprogram your mind. You can listen to that recording for a certain amount of time. I advise personally my clients to listen to it for 4 weeks. Because this way you can reprogram your subconscious mind. And then once you're fully conscious, things will be there on the surface. And you will start perceiving life around you differently. And as you do, the way you're experiencing your life is going to be completely different. It will open you up to opportunities, to exploring your own potential, and to stop with the negative thinking, to stop with the self-doubt, to stop with assuming that you have low self-confidence or low self-esteem, but see yourself as who you were once and still are. You just need to free yourself from what you keep, holding you back with every day. You can break those chains, but again, you have to want it hard enough. And some people are not willing to do the work.
Yeah.
Or some people just go, oh, look, it's not for me. I'm always curious to see how in the BIPOC community, therapy and coaching is just not, it's just not for us, and that's what people tell you. It's not for people like me. You're right. It's not for people like you. It's for everybody. It's for everybody. You focusing on your physical fitness, focus on your mental fitness. The BIPOC community has, you do have the right, and it's in your best interest to unleash your own potential. To create the life you really want, to let go, with the generational, generational restraint. Yeah.
I like that. Yeah. And another one of your, let's see, approaches involves cognitive behavioral therapy. Would you tell us a little bit about what that is?
Well, to make it very clear, because that's the thing, I do not like technical terms, because again, when we use technical terms, I feel like it's not for everybody. So I really want to open up therapy and coaching to everybody. So what I would call cognitive connection is, to me, it's having a waha moment, Something happens and boom, you make a connection straight away. You understand where the problem is coming from. Straight away, it's having this light bulb just to turn on. That's what it's about.
Yeah. So, Maty, is the type of change you're talking about, the type of transformation you're talking about, sustainable? Is there such a thing as sustainable transformation?
Yes, it is. Yes. And yes, there is. But again, it always depends on your investment. How much do you invest yourself into being the person you want to be? What do you tell yourself when you get up in the morning? Do you tell yourself, oh my God, I'm going to have such a horrible day? I hate my life.
Yeah.
I can't do this anymore. I can't stand it.
Yeah.
What do you tell yourself when you get up in the morning? What is the conversation you keep having with yourself? If you convince your mind that life is horrible, that nothing works your way, that, this is it, well, this is exactly what you're going to get. But if you convince yourself otherwise, if you convince yourself that you're limitless, that success is available to you, that you're lovable, that you are enough, that you can get it all, then there's nothing stopping you. Because truly, the biggest barrier we have as human beings is right across the mirror. When you look at yourself in the morning and you see your face, that's the biggest barrier. It's what you tell yourself. It's coming from you. Because again, I'm talking about adults. We're not kids anymore. You make those decisions every day. To keep on having the same experiences.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I want to play a little game with you, and I want you to answer yes or no. And I don't care whether you answer yes or no or not, then give us a brief commentary on it. Okay. So this gets kind of can't do it spontaneously. So if an adult says that, I don't feel confident that I could become president of a company because of something it was due to something my father said to me 40 years ago. Yes or no?
Yes or no to what they're saying, or yes or no,
to what they're saying. What they're saying. They're saying that I can't do it.
No. Why would you say that? That was one comment your father gave you 100 years ago. Move on from that. in what your dad said is not a fact.
Mhm. Okay.
It's just
All right.
something that was said in the heat of the
Right.
moment. It does not
Okay.
define you. Stop letting people saying define who you are. Stop
Right.
letting
Okay.
even a behavior define who you are. You're a lot
Mhm.
more than that.
Okay. All right. Here's
Okay.
another one for you. And you've heard this one before, I'm sure. Let's say that someone's college educated, they like to write, but 15 years ago, their creative writer teacher, professor told her, you can't write. And they say, it's for that reason that even though I got some novels, I'm not finishing up and I'm not going to try to get them published. Yes or no?
Okay.
Is that
No,
teacher, that professor, the one
no.
holding them back?
No, that teacher is not holding you back. You're holding yourself back by repeating that same thought over and over again and associating yourself to it. You're better than that. You're better than that. You survive that moment because you have a purpose. Live your purpose. Live your purpose. What's stopping you? That teacher didn't care. She was just careless and she didn't care. And you're giving her power over your entire life. How is that making any kind of sense? She doesn't even remember your name. She doesn't even remember what she said to you and has no idea it affects you that much.
Okay. What if someone says then, I'm not a loving, nurturing person today because it was my mother. My mother was not loving and nurturing. Yes or no? Is that what's holding this person back today?
No, excuses. Again, that's a lame excuse. You're not your mama, You're not your mama. Be yourself. Be yourself. You didn't get the chance to have that example, okay? But again, you can create something different. Look around you. Copy someone else's attitude. You know what love feels like. So you're able to give it, but you have to decide it.
I love it, Maty. That's very hopeful for sure. And I'm glad you played this game with me today. Look, before we leave, I want to ask you one final question, and that is there anything else you care to share with us that we haven't touched on today?
Yes, I want to mention to your audience that stress is simply a signal. It's a signal that you're not taking ownership of your life. That deep down, you do know that you have the power to control the situation you're facing at the moment. Listen to the signals. Stop ignoring what's right in front of you. Do not take life as a curse, because life is not happening for you. It's not happening, through you. It's happening for you.
Yeah, I love it.
You have the power to change, and it would be a shame for you to just keep on giving value to what people said to you as a kid, and you've left as a holdback all this time.
Yeah, I love that, Maty. Thank you so much for sharing it. Well, look, it has truly been my pleasure talking with you. I thank you so much for spending this time with me today, Maty.
Thank you very much for having me. I had a great time, and thank you very much for letting me have my say, and I hope your audience will like it.
I'm sure. Okay. Well, you've been listening to the Possibility Action Network podcast. My guest today has been Maty Mariko. I'm your host, Stephen Middleton. Until next time, good day